Hi, I'm Claire, and in this video we are going to talk about my most anticipated book releases of January, February and March of 2020. We're gonna look at 15 books coming out in the first 3 months of the year and why I'm really excited to get my hands on them. Before we get into the video, if I've stuck to my editing and release schedule, you should be seeing this a couple of days before my birthday on Sunday, December 29th, where I'm going to do a special birthday slash 5k subscribers celebration live stream. It's going to start at 7 p.m. British time, GMT. I'm going to have all of the details in the description box below, so please check it out if you would like to join us. But for today, I've got 15 exciting books to tell you about. 5 of them are sequels to books I've read in the past and really enjoyed, and 10 of them are brand new books, so either standalone stories or the first in new series. And as usual with these most anticipated books videos, I have taken all of the details, including release dates, from Goodreads. I believe those release dates are all US and UK, same release dates. You might have a different release date if you're in a different territory. All I've got is what Goodreads tells me. But without further ado, let us get started because we've got 15 books to go through, starting with 3 books in January. First up, I don't think anyone will be surprised that I'm really excited about Come Tumbling Down, the 5th book in the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire. This is a book series about kids who have traveled through portals and doors to magical lands and had grand adventures there and have grown and changed and found themselves and then have been chucked back out of those magical worlds into the mundane world that we live in, and they are trying to adjust back to life in that world. I absolutely love this series. I can't tell you much more about the plot of this new book, Come Tumbling Down, because it's a direct sequel to the first book in the series, Every Heart a Doorway, and the blurb on Goodreads is chock full of spoilers for that book. So if you've read Every Heart a Doorway, I would suggest go and check out the blurb for Come Tumbling Down. If you haven't, keep away and read Every Heart first. The one thing I will say is that we follow the character of Jack once again, who was an important character in Every Heart a Doorway as well as Among the Sticks and Bones. So if you enjoyed that character and those books, I would say check out Come Tumbling Down. I know I'm certainly excited about it. And that one comes out on January 7th, 2020. Next up, we have A Beginning at the End by Mike Chen. This comes out on the 14th of January and it is a post-apocalyptic novel set in San Francisco. It is set 6 years after the world was ravaged by a mysterious epidemic. Society has basically fallen down and is now in the process of being rebuilt. I absolutely love the trope of people trying to rebuild society after an apocalypse, so I was immediately hooked as soon as I heard about this book. We follow a group of separate characters: Moira, who is running away from her past, and the father who is looking for her, Krista, who is traveling the world trying to help people, and Rob, who is desperately trying to not be separated from his kid. Their lives kind of come together and intertwine in this story just as rumors are rising of the possibility of a second outbreak of the disease that, you know, destroyed society the first time round. This sounds really exciting to me. I'm very much looking forward to that one. Next up on January 28th, we've got Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith. I came across this one on Twitter and I was immediately interested because of the title, and as you might expect from the title, it is about online life and specifically online gaming. We follow a young woman called Divya who is known for playing this game Reclaim the Sun on her streams. She's got a growing fan base following her. She's the queen in this virtual universe and things are going well for her. She's able to have like sponsorships to help pay the bills and all of that. We've also got a young guy called Aaron who's dreaming of a career in gaming and is working towards that by writing games for a local developer. He happens to be on the same server as Divya one day and doesn't really believe his luck that he is on the same remote, isolated, reclaim the sun planet as this really popular streamer who is on the rise. But that's how they meet, and as they are becoming friends online in the game, there is more and more harassment going on in the game. There are more trolls coming through in the game, and it is starting to bleed into real life when a particularly persistent hate group basically is trying to dox them. So this one sounds like it might be a little bit heavy to read, but certainly interesting, and I'm always into more books that like portray online life and fandom life and things that, you know, I really recognize from my everyday life but I don't see a lot in fiction. So I am super interested in this one, and again it comes out on the 28th of January. Now in February there's 8 whole books that I'm really excited for. I have no idea how I'm going to get to all of them, but the first one is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This comes out on February the 4th, 2020. I'm just checking my computer, by the way, when I'm looking down like that. Now this book is about Esther, who is a stowaway. She hid herself in the librarian's book wagon to escape an arranged marriage that her father had arranged for her with the man who was previously engaged with her best friend who she was in love with, her best friend who was recently executed for possessing resistance propaganda. So you can see how there's a lot of feelings going on there. And did I mention she's a stowaway in a librarian's book wagon? I mean, that's really all I need to know. To be fair, at this point, anything that Gailey puts out is going to ping my radar as something that I'm interested in, because I've read their writing before and really enjoyed it. But this one just sounds extra good. Stowaway in a librarian's book wagon. That's some good pitch right there. Also on February 4th, we've got Deathless Divide by Justin Ireland. This is the second book in her series that started with Dread Nation. This is an alternate history series set in post-Civil War America, where the point of divergence, where the course of history was changed forever, is that zombies rose at the Battle of Gettysburg. So obviously the Civil War finished at that point because they had to battle the undead. And the first book, Dread Nation, starts some 16 years after the zombies first rose, where the Civil War is finished, but there is still definitely some racism, and the way that it manifests in that universe is that young Black and Native children are taken away from their families to schools where they learn to basically be bodyguards for rich white people so that they can protect them from the zombies that are everywhere. Our protagonist, Jane McKean, is a young black woman who was trained in an elite school like that to be a bodyguard for a fancy, rich white lady so that she can both, I guess, know deportment and pour some tea, but also murder some zombies. Now, I'm not going to say more about the premise of the first book because spoilers, but I really did enjoy it, and it definitely concludes in a way that's not kind of wrapped up. You definitely know there's a second book coming and there's more to the story and you want to know more. At least I want to know more, so I'm definitely going to check this one out. Next up, we've got The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. It comes out on February the 11th, and it is the first book in a brand new series called The Serpent's Gates. It looks like high fantasy. People are talking about it like it's epic fantasy, but I'm also seeing things like maybe it's a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, which I'm very interested in. People are also talking about how queer it is, so I am doubly excited for that. We follow a character whose name I'm not sure I can pronounce before listening to the audiobook, but I am going to go right now with Sorwa, and it is all about how Sorwa was destined to be a sacrifice. She knew that she would climb the mountain, enter the Shrine of the Unspoken, and give her life in sacrifice. Just before she was going to do that, a wizard came around and said to her, hey, do you want to like maybe not die today and like be a spy and an assassin instead and have some adventures? And then she was like, yeah, let's do that instead. I'm paraphrasing the blurb here a little bit, but you can see why I would be pretty intrigued to see where this is going. I haven't gotten into a high fantasy series, like properly obsessed with a epic fantasy series for a really long time, so let's hope this will be the one to do that for me again. Also out on February 11th, we've got Stormsong by C.L. Polk. This is the second book in the Kingston cycle. It follows Witchmark, which won a World Fantasy Award. I am so happy that it did, because I bloody loved that book and I'm really excited to get the sequel. Now, Witchmark was all about Miles, a young man who was born in the incredibly wealthy, incredibly aristocratic Hensley family and fled the family because he has some magic powers, and in this world, if you've got some magic powers, but it's not the right kind of magic powers, you can basically be subsumed to the will and authority of a wizard with the correct kind of magic powers. So Miles wanted to not be, you know, a slave to his sister who has the correct kind of magic power, so he ran away to be a doctor in the war. And the first story, Witchmark, is absolutely amazing, follows him. There's a lovely queer romance in that as well. Now Stormsong, the second book, is all about Miles's sister, Dame Grace Hensley, who appears in the first book. Won't say too much more about what she does in the first book because spoilers, but in this book she is having a romance with a lady journalist who also appears in the first book, Avia. Oof, I cannot wait. I'm super excited to read this one. Next up on February 25th, we've got Imaginary Numbers by Shannon Maguire. This one is number 9th in the Encrypted series, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. If you haven't read the first 8, you definitely don't want to pick this one up first. It's a series with a lot of stuff happening in it. It's set in a urban fantasy world where cryptids and other creatures that we might refer to as monsters all exist, and all of the books follow members of the Price family, who are cryptozoologists, as they try to maintain the balance between humans and, you know, cryptids, as sometimes cryptids will eat humans and we don't want that, but also sometimes humans decide that cryptids are monsters and have to die, and we also don't want that. Now this book, Imaginary Numbers, is in a whole new POV. The main character for this one is Sarah Zellaby, who is one of the cousins of the Price family. She is a cryptid herself, and she is also a math prodigy, and there's a lot of stuff that happened with her in the previous books. Again, you need to read those to read this one. But if you're like me and you've read all of these and you really like them, new one coming out, it's all about Sarah. Cannot wait. Next up, also on February 25th, we've got The Sound of Stars by Alekia Dow. This is a debut novel. It's science fiction. It's a little dystopian. It's all about an Earth where 2 years ago there was first contact between humanity and a race of aliens called the Elori, and then there was a tragic miscommunication between the two of them that resulted in the death of 1/3 of the world's population. After that, the Elori decided that humans really are way too emotional. They cannot be trusted because they care so much about books and art and their emotions, and therefore all of those things have been banned. You cannot have art or books or emotions anymore, because clearly that's a slippery slope. We follow 2 main characters in this Elori controlled Earth. We've got a 17-year-old called Ellie who lives in New York and is risking pretty much everything by maintaining a secret library because books are cool. But then a book goes missing from the library and Ellie is terrified because if she is found out and reported to the Elori, they will probably kill her. Our other main character, Morris, is an Elori who was born in a lab and raised to be absolutely emotionless. When he finds the lost book, he knows he should report it immediately, but he doesn't because, again, books are cool. So it looks like there's gonna be maybe a hint of romance between the two of them. They're going on a wild and dangerous road trip to try and save humanity, and you know, it's all for the love of books and music. And yeah, this one seems really pretty intriguing to me. Next up, also on February 25th, we've got We Unleash the Merciless Storm by Taylor K. Mejia. This is the sequel to her first book, We Set the Dark on Fire, which I read last year and very, very much enjoyed. We Set the Dark on Fire introduces us to the world of Medio, which is really, really polarized, with an upper class that has a lot of riches and power, lives completely isolated in a curled off bit of town where they don't have to interact with poor people and see the way that they are treating the rest of society. And our main character is a girl called Dani, who is just about to graduate from her very, very fancy finishing school, where she is learning to be the perfect wife for a rich, fancy husband. She is about to get married off, but then someone who knows something about her past and who has something that they can hold over her head comes to her and gives her an ultimatum. She has to help the resistance or she will be exposed and she won't be able to keep going with the life that she had planned. So she's kind of struggling with that in that first book. And in the second book, We Unleash the Merciless Storm, we follow Carmen, who was a classmate of Dani at the beginning of the first book, and then stuff happens in the first book. They do have to try and work together even though they hate each other, and then there's a lot of stuff that builds up from there. I won't say too much more. I don't think I can even say like the premise of the second book if you haven't read the first one. It seems like it would be a spoiler, but it is about Carmen and it's about what happens to her after the big reveal at the end of the first book. I'm going to leave it there because anything else would be really spoilery, but I'm really, really excited to keep being in this world and to see Carmen's point of view as we continue forwards, and to kind of hear what's going on with Dani as well, as I'm sure we will. And finally for February, also on the 25th, we've got Finna by Nino Cipri. This is a novella about an interdimensional portal opening up in an IKEA, and then a little grandma goes missing in the interdimensional portal, and then two minimum wage employees who just broke up a week ago have to like go together on an interdimensional journey to go save their customers so that their employer doesn't get in trouble. So that sounds good. That sounds really, really good. I've been hearing the pitch for this novella for a really, really long time, and now I've got a review copy, which I'm so excited about, because this seems completely out of left field, but also like, yes, I absolutely want to read that immediately. And the trope of following two people who've just broken up and might well be getting together again during the book like seems perfect for me. If they become friends, it's good too. Now we're done for sequels, but we've got 4 more new books for March, which I'm really, really excited about. The first one is Havenfall by Sarah Holland. It comes out on March the 3rd. I just came across the synopsis for this completely on accident, hadn't heard of it at all, but it seems really, really interesting. This one is all about the inn at Havenfall, which lies hidden in the Colorado mountain. It's the one connecting point between 4 ancient worlds with their own separate magics, but for generations the inn at Havenfall has stood for a point of peace and truce, and anybody who disturbs that peace is never welcome again. The inn has to remain a sanctuary. And we follow Maddie, whose family has been running this inn for generations. She's known it all her life, but when she takes over, the impossible happens and a dead body is found in the inn. The peace has been breached in this completely irreparable way, and now Maddie has to deal with the fallout of it. Now, I've never read anything by this author, but I am super excited to check out this book because the idea of like this inn, which is a sanctuary and a haven, and nothing bad is supposed to happen there, and you can kind of interact with the different magical worlds that I'm sure have a lot of like world building going on about how different they are, and they're probably at war and stuff. It sounds really, really cool. There's also a hint of romance there, where Maddie, our main character, has something going on with a soldier from one of those magical worlds. So whether that conflict with the dead body like actually wreaks havoc on her personal life, I don't know, but like if I was writing it, that's what I would make it do, so that seems like it could be very, very cool. Next up, also on March 3rd, we've got another Gaily title, When We Were Magic, which is pitched as a dark, witchy comedy about 4 teens who are united by the secret that they share, that they all have magical powers, and they are experimenting about their magic together. It seems very kind of The Craft-like, but then when one of their experiments go wrong and a boy ends up dead, they have to kind of try and fix their mistake with some magic, and that goes wrong. So they try again to fix it with more magic, and that goes even more wrong. And then there's a lot of unintended consequences, and it just seems like it would be really, really cool. And as I said before, I really like Gaily's work. I want to read more of what they do. On March 24th, we've got The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Ni Vo, a novella whose blurb seems like it was written entirely for me. It is high fantasy, and we follow a young royal from the far north who has been sent down south for a political marriage. She is alone, she is often reviled, all she has with her is her servants, and we see the story through the eyes of her handmaidens. We get to see her rise to power, and it's at once a feminist epic fantasy and a thrilling indictment of the monarchy. It's a story about power and empire and the anger of women. They are saying it has the heart of an Atwood tale and the visuals of a classic Asian period drama, and I am here for all of it. And again, I have a review copy of this. I cannot wait to dig into this one. I'm gonna have to wait until February because it comes out in March, but I'm very, very excited for that one. And finally, on March 26th, there is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. It's very unsurprising that I would be really, really excited for that book. Everyone on BookTube SFF has been anticipating this one very, very highly. It is a story about New York and its 5 different souls. It is based on the short story The City Born Great, which I read a few years back and really enjoyed. It's a fantasy story by N.K. Jemisin. I am super on board for a fantasy story by 3-time Hugo Award winner N.K. Jemisin, or anything else by N.K. Jemisin. So that's it. These were 15 books I am really, really excited for in the first 3 months of 2020. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can join me live for my birthday and other various celebrations at 7 p.m. on Sunday, December 29th. And please do let me know what books you're really excited for in 2020, be it the first 3 months of the year or even later in the year. I've kind of tried to contain myself with this list and keep it to not too many books, but I know I've got way more on my radar for the rest of the year already, so hopefully I'll be able to bring you more anticipated book releases videos throughout 2020 as well. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video on screen right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face for a new video from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.